This week on Lunchbox Envy, the Romans decorated their banquet room floors with mosaics of dropped leftovers.
Every branch of Whole Foods employs an in-store artist to make things look beautiful.
And there's even a word for eating it, iconophagy.
It's food art. Hello and welcome to Lunchbox Envy. I'm Manu and I'm here with my fellow QI elves, Jack and Alex.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
So, what is art? Manu, can you just drop that definition in one sentence, please? Nice and quick for us, and then we'll crack on.
So, for this podcast episode, I have decided that you've got art, as in there's an art to it.
Okay.
So there's a skill that you've acquired through lots of practice,
Okay.
artful. And then you've got art, which is humans making a thing and expressing themselves in a way that's meant to elicit a reaction in another human.
Okay.
And then obviously there is the culinary arts,
Okay, right.
which is kind of the discipline under which this more kind of
The art of cookery.
yeah, like say when we think of old French cookery, like Antoine Carême, Escoffier, that kind of codified, more like strict practice.
But today we're going to talk mostly about food in the art world
Yes.
rather than the artistry of, say, cooking.
Yeah,
So, like,
I think
I'm sure we'll do a
that's-
food styling episode of Rosie another time, but I feel
yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
a different thing.
Do you think the word scoff, as in to eat with abandon,
Oh, yeah.
do you think that comes from Escoffier?
From Escoffier.
Oh.
Might well do.
If not, then that's a great coincidence. It's nominative dedeterminism, isn't it? That
I
Let's
he's
look it
mean,
up.
he was French though, so I'm not sure if the determinism
does it
works.
cross languages?
Is it cross- Oh, we've also got, I love this, eating with your eyes.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's a
it's,
bad way to do it.
Yeah,
Especially
you'll
in
get an
the French.
infection.
but it's often attributed to a first century Roman merchant and like famous foodie called Apicius,
Oh, picky.
who's meant to have coined it. We eat first with our eyes. And from an evolutionary perspective, this is true and super useful. There are some people that think that the reason we have such incredible colour vision is to identify foods in the wild. So when we're foraging, looking for like brighter, redder, tasty berries in a green canopy. So food and visuals and beauty have always been really closely connected.
That's definitely true because you can always see the golden arches on a night out, like down the high street.
That's true.
Well, I mean, we've mentioned in a previous podcast, but fast food chains often use red for their branding because it triggers the hunger hormone in us and the quick decision making
Like fight or flight. You see red,
or
they're like, quick, a burger.
Yeah, you genuinely
No,
you get
for sure.
like hungry, you make a snap decision. You're
That's
like,
crazy.
I am hungry. I should go in.
It's also looking at images of higher calorie, fattier foods. Our brains are like
No way.
way more excited by them than looking at images of like a carrot. As beautiful as carrots are, we are primed to enjoy looking at food.
One of my favourite things to do actually on this podcast is making the little thumbnails, for the, which I kind of think is a form of food art because I'm picking
much.
the
Very
nicest,
stunning.
most interesting pictures.
Do you get hungry when you're doing it?
Sometimes, yeah, definitely when it's like chocolate. When we're doing like offal, maybe not, but
That's fair.
because it's like raw meat.
What do you think the most famous art piece with a piece of food in? Obviously, this is subjective.
Well, I think the Mona Lisa was actually looking at
A McDonald's
churro.
Happy
Yeah, that's why she's smiling. She's like, probably the Last Supper has technically. I mean, I think that's quite
so-
foodie.
You know
because
what? I think more of the people in that
Well,
image
of course,
than
but
the food.
I'm wondering if there are any food on the table. There must be.
Well, obviously there are multiple depictions,
That's
and I
true.
guess the one that we all know is Leonardo da Vinci's. But it's obviously of the Last Supper, so they're all sitting around a dinner table, and there is bread and water and cups of wine. I suppose formerly water, now wine. But the other thing as well is, do you guys know where the actual location of the Last Supper is?
Oh
Da
my
Vinci's
God, no,
Last Supper.
I never considered that. Is it an olive garden in Tennessee?
No, yeah. I didn't realize it was a fresco. I actually sort of assumed it was a frame for.
Oh, sorry, you
okay,
don't mean the
physically.
restaurant
Yeah,
location.
like in what context
Or
is it painted?
the Vatican?
No, it's on the wall of a refectory at Santa Maria delle Grazie. So it's painted on the wall of a dining room, basically, for monks.
So you can see it.
That's why they're all sitting so awkwardly around one side of the table, because the illusion is that you're also dining on the other side of the table. You're joining them.
That
Oh,
makes
you
sense.
could never get lonely in that dining.
Yeah,
We'll be like,
exactly.
it's me and my buddy Jesus,
Like
and like all of his
13
other.
pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that joke. Jesus goes into a restaurant and says, like a table for 26, please. And then the maitre d's like, there's only 13 of you. And it's like, yeah, but we'd all like to sit on the same side. Now I know why.
I would say that's probably the most. I guess maybe you don't think of food when you look at it, but I feel like
No,
it's
but
the
it
most.
is the most famous
It's about
piece
food.
with
I suppose-
art in.
what about like Andy Warhol's?
I was
Well,
going
that
to
was gonna
say,
be my-
Campbell food can?
the soup.
Yeah.
It's the
Well,
soup.
for the fact that we all agree.
Can all food be art? Like I had a very nice chocolate croissant just before we started. That I was quite hungry, but I was looking at it like a beautiful painting.
I think now you've talked about it, it's become art. I think it's obviously quite metaphysical, but it has to evoke some sort of conversation before it becomes art. Like Yves Klein had the blue square in the Tate. I remember seeing that as a kid. And I was like, well, it's so easy to reproduce. It's just a blue square.
Why are you from Essex when you're 12?
I was a Cockney geezer as a youth. But yeah, I think the point is, if I had done that blue square, the Tate wouldn't have bought it off me.
Yeah.
There's something about this guy's aura and presence. And also it was kind of his trademark blue.
And context and everything. Like there's so much about.
Didn't he host a party at some point where he was famous for this blue colour and everyone turned up expecting to see some great art? And they were sipping their cocktails. And then when each of them went to the toilet, they started peeing blue because he put special blue colouring in the food and drinks.
That's
they were eating.
amazing.
Yeah.
That
So that was the art piece.
You couldn't do that today. I feel like you'd need to get them to sign
I think so, yeah.
that's-
But anyway, I think the fact that you've remembered that croissant and you're bringing it out now, I would say makes it art. Do you disagree?
I feel like the person that made the croissant wasn't like, today, this is the art.
Okay, well, how
I'm
about
sure-
latte art then? Because there's intention behind that. When they
Yeah,
create a little pattern, the guy who does my coffee every morning always clearly he's doing a heart, like because that's like the classic, but then hands it to me upside down, so I just get a ball sack every morning. It's a horrible way to start the
Either
day.
way, I think he's flirting with you, Alex.
I've been literally teabagged.
It's time for our first lunchbox, and today that is mine.
On a regular day, you don't bring something edible, so I really doubt that today you're giving
I
us
mean,
anything.
it's kind like
Today, man,
it's
it's just
pretty
got toast.
edible. All right.
Arts and crafts.
What have we got here? We've got painting paper
Craft paper.
and an egg box with some eggs in, but also some kind of coloured crushed powders that are very vibrant. Is that my espresso cup full of
Yes,
egg
it
yolk?
is.
Okay, fine.
So it's actually egg yolk without the sac. So I had to kind of separate the white and the yolk, and then
Wow.
pinch the yolk sac and empty that into the cup. So there's
That's
like literally
impressive.
just yolk in there.
Are we going to be doing some painting?
We're going to be doing some painting. So today I wanted to talk about using food in art, literally painting with
Food to make the art.
we are going to make something called egg tempera, which is using egg yolks to help bind your paint, and it creates a paint that is really, really long lasting, dries really, really fast, and it was used really often to paint on buildings, like doing frescoes, just because it was so hardy. So yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of literally food in artwork and then painting with eggs.
Amazing.
The thing that's reminded me of is, do you remember in the Mr. Bean movie when he goes to America and accidentally destroys a painting? It's so stressful. It's a
That,
great
you
movie.
know what? I had night as a
Me
child.
too. I genuinely
was
gave me anxiety when I
flipping
was a kid. Yeah.
terrified.
But at the end, when he, spoiler alert, replaces it with a poster, he whisks a load of eggs together and paints over it to
Oh
make
my
it look like it's an oil
God.
painting. Yeah.
That's genius.
There we go. So what we're going to do is mix a little bit of pigment. So I've crushed up some chalk, like kids' chalk.
Okay.
A little bit of yolk and a little bit of water. And then I've got some card and we can paint a little picture.
Let's go for it.
Okay, so
You know what? They're creating quite vibrant, proper
Wow.
red, green, blue.
whilst you guys are doing that, I'm going to talk about early cave painting. So, really, really old cave painting, like the ones in Lascaux, I thought would have been of food. So, the things that they were eating at the time. Apparently, it's quite unlikely that all of those beautiful images of kind of like horsey looking creatures and buffalo. They were probably not prey for them, for these early humans, because they were so massive they would have gotten trampled. So, not painting food, but painting with food, because a lot of those old pigments did have animal fats and plant saps and edible things. Some of them even had spit in them. So they'd mix all of
really?
these pigments with these kind of edible wet substances and then use those to paint the walls. Painting with eggs tempera. The earliest evidence we have of this is in 1200 BC, but it was also used in ancient Egypt and through the Byzantine Empire, and it was used all the way up until the careers of like Botticelli and Da Vinci. So they were still using this kind of eggy based pigment in the early 1500s.
Wow.
So a really famous example is The Birth of Venus, which was painted in the 1480s. Yeah, there's egg in that.
Wow.
There's egg all over that.
Well, she does come from a shell.
She
Yeah.
does come.
And eggs represent birth. I'm
there
just
we
making
go.
like
Fertility.
second order allusions here.
You are writing the bullshit they write on the plaque
Yeah,
next to it. Like GCSE art, this represents love.
So this paint would have been made by mixing pigments and egg yolk. Da Vinci kind of mixed it into his oil paints. So that was kind of the transition away from egg tempera painting, because afterwards people tended just to use straight up oils without the egg. But you'd apply it in really, really thin layers and it would dry really, really quickly. And then you'd just build and build and build and build. And because of the properties of the yolk, it made a really long lasting paint. So
What are the properties of the yolk?
so it's quite water resistant because the proteins in the yolk kind of build a like layer around the pigments, which prevents it from like sucking up too much water, getting damaged by the water. And because it's full of antioxidants, it stops the paint from degrading and oxidizing.
Oh, wow.
So it actually protects the colour as well, which is really beautiful. And even though this technique kind of fell out of favour in the 1500s, people have still been using it like all the way up until really, really recently. So there was an American artist called George Tucker, who unfortunately he died in 2011, but he created some stunning egg tempera paintings. And because of the fact you need to like layer and layer and layer and layer, it creates like a beautiful kind of like opalescent 3D looking image. And he said it's because of the layers of it, it's really slow, and he found it really meditative to kind of paint in these layers and have to think between each. Do check out his work. George Tucker, stunning.
Okay, I finished my
Okay.
painting.
Would you like to present and explain your artwork,
Ian
Alex?
signed it.
So, I've done a take on the Mona Lisa.
Ooh.
I gave her bangs and some sunglasses.
Yeah, I was going to say
because
very
it's 2026.
trendy. Nice.
And then I gave her some earphones, which she's using to listen to Lunchbox Envy, and that's why she's smiling.
Nice.
So I
Very
finally
nice.
solved the mystery after all these years.
Well done.
And I've drawn Alex's matcha latte with the bollocks on.
Oh,
Oh my god, that's so good. These paints work really well.
Yeah.
No, they're like, in theory, they should last forever because they've got egg yolk in them. So,
Ooh.
So while we're still in olden times,
Yes.
the ancient world, we talked about the Romans having mosaics.
Yes, if you were a rich and wealthy Roman patrician, you might tile your dining room with a mosaic of food scraps.
So like permanent leftovers of nice food.
Leftovers. And part of, I mean, to me, it's an excuse to hide all the actual food scraps.
yeah,
in
that's
them.
what I was thinking. Like,
Oh, well, like the moquette on the buses where the,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
designs are really like busy, so that you can't see how dirty
You
the
can't
seats
see the
are.
dirt. Yeah, exactly. So there's one example in the Vatican's Profane Museum, which I didn't know that existed, but basically it's not quite as racy as you think. But the Vatican has a separate section of their museum dedicated to non-Christian art. And it does include a few penises. There's a virtual tour you can do online. So
the look in your eyes is like, you
But-
have done that
Yeah,
tour.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
His wife walks in and he's like, tell what you think, it's the Vatican Museum website.
Anyway, there's basically a mosaic in a dining room floor, and the depiction is of food scraps, leftover nutshells, crab's legs, olive pits, and there's even a mouse nibbling on a nut in the corner.
Oh, cute.
So it's also unhygienic. I mean, it's
Yeah.
weird that you've got
It's
like a
kind
mouse.
of a weird flex,
Yeah.
right? But it kind of makes sense when you consider that there were laws in place at the time that restricted the decadence of banquets. So you had like a spending cap on your banquets, and it was designed to sort of curb decadence and stop wasted funds. So this was a way around. You could be like, look, we can't afford to like splash out on you, but we could if we were allowed to.
Right.
So they had, like I say, quite expensive crab claws, spices from all around the world. So it was clearly like a bit of a flex.
How interesting. But doesn't that mean that you can never have a tidy house? You've permanently decorated your house to be untidy?
I know what you mean, which is to our sort of modern eyes a bit ugly, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think they're quite beautiful with my sort of 2,000 years later eyes. It was popular enough to have its own term. It was asarotos oikos, or unswept room in Greek. And obviously the Romans stole a lot of
It's kind of like Tracy Emin's On My Bed.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
much
exactly it.
Except that I don't think I would buy Tracy Emin's On My Bed if I were a millionaire, because I just think I don't want that in my house. I don't want people not realising it's art and thinking I'm
true.
just a slob. Yeah.
That is true, actually. Yeah, if you had that asarotos oikos commission today.
What foods would you put?
Oh, yeah.
what's
Like an empty
fancy?
caviar tin.
Perolo olives.
Perello olives.
Perello olives.
The like
bougie
fancy
foods.
kettle chips, the
Ooh.
crisps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Torres crisps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Maybe like a lot of Tesco Finest packaging.
Ooh,
Maybe like
M&S Picky Bit.
M&S Piggy Bits, yeah.
I discarded my Waitrose cards.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's another aspect to it whereby they've all got shadows, but some of the shadows aren't actually attached to the foodstuffs, which implies they're just about to hit the floor,
Oh, cool.
which gives a sort of sense of like time,
Ooh,
I suppose, or like
immediacy.
immediacy.
But that only works if you're looking at it from one angle.
I know what you mean. But they didn't have photography. Like, I think this would have been much more mind-blowing for them
True.
I love it.
back in the day.
Do you reckon people were trying to catch the food before it
I
fell?
don't think they were quite so.
Catch that chicken wing. It's like when you paint a £5 note on the pavement and no one
Yeah.
goes to pick it up.
So now we're moving on to Renaissance. Have you guys heard of Giuseppe Arcimboldo?
Oh yes, I have. Like I was gonna mention him because he's painted one of my favourite food paintings.
Yes. Oh, is it the Four Seasons? It's one of those, the Four
Yeah,
Seasons.
yeah.
isn't
Yes,
it?
From the-
it's called Vertumnus. He painted like portraits of people, but then their faces.
It looks as if someone's created sculpture out of, because it's hyper realistic images of a bunch of grapes or like a pumpkin or mushrooms, and they all come together to make the illusion of a human face in profile.
You're right, because actually, if you look at it in passing, you see a person, and then you look
Yeah,
at
and if
every
you
single
squint,
detail
it
is a
just looks like
berry,
a
and
person,
and
yeah.
like the beard is made of wheat, and
It was so appealing to me as like a 10-year-old, because so much of the National Gallery was so uninteresting.
Yeah.
And then you walk past this and you're like, oh my God, it's made of fruit.
it's psychedelic, isn't it?
It's very
People thought he
psychedelic.
might have been tripping.
So, Giuseppe Arcimboldo was born in Milan, but then ended up working in Vienna and Prague for the Habsburg family.
Oh,
yes.
and-
That's the equivalent of like you always end up going to London and working for Deloitte. Like
Yeah, exactly.
of the Renaissance.
Of the
you know?
Renaissance, yeah.
Big dynasty of the kind of emperors of Germany.
Yeah.
And he was really famous for painting these incredible psychedelic, fruity portraits. So rich people will come to him, like, paint me like one of your cucumber men, and he'd
Paint me like one of your French onions.
So the most famous one he did is the Four Seasons, which was painted in 1563.
And there were 4 of them, right? There was one for each season.
So, yeah, exactly. So winter's kind of made of naked trees, spring's really, really flowery, summer's lots of vegetables, and autumn is slightly more seasonable vegetables. So squashes, so it's very, very trendy.
I would recommend that if you're listening to this on audio, you give it a Google so that you can see what we're talking about, because it's amazing.
But yeah, a lot of art historians can't figure out whether it was just like his style, a bit psychedelic, because it's kind of mixing the Renaissance with this really keen interest in anatomy and botany and all of these kind of paintings of the natural world that were coming out of the Renaissance interested.
Was it also that from a political point of view, the Habsburgs who he was painting, he's associating them with like fundamentals of life. You're subconsciously connecting them to the harvest and the changing of the seasons and making them seem like quite, I would say, like godlike. They seem like creatures of myth and stuff.
That's much more highfalutin take than the one I had, which was just that, like, if they were really ugly, you could sort of get away with, like, you don't have to be hyper realistic. You're like, well, you're made of fruit. I don't want to make you perfect.
You said like his nose looks like a turnip. You just
It's
made
a
it a
bit like
turnip.
that, or impressionists. They were like, yeah, I don't have to get it completely right.
Yeah, that's true. It's like an Instagram filter, food filter. Yeah.
That's
Heavy
so true.
Instagram filter.
That would be a great Instagram filter, the Arcimboldo filter.
Oh,
It just turns your face
tricky.
That's
into
got to be on the
Yes.
way, yeah.
There are 2 other ideas for his inspiration. So he had a lot of mental health issues.
Okay.
Some people think that he might have painted his hallucinations, but that's there's not loads of historians that think that. Another physical object, which probably did inspire some of his paintings, was a dish. It's a painted dish that's at the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford with a composite head of penises. And it's in exactly the same style. It's just loads of penises and balls. So it's like all of these phalluses tangled together and like the bell ends where the eyes are, and it's incredible.
It's the same guy who does my latte art every morning.
So yeah, these plates in particular, these embellished plates, used to be gifted to potential lovers. So this was more of like a satirical piece. But yeah, a lot of people look at this plate and think, oh, that looks just like Archimboldo's work.
And I suppose, again, if the Houseberg is going to commission a piece, he'd be like, do you want me to do penises or fruit?
Moving on a little to Dutch still life.
Yes.
Which is so foodie. Oh my God, they're obsessed with painting food. It was mostly to talk about how rich you were, how much you loved Jesus, or that we're all going to die.
Memento mori.
Yeah, so you've got paintings that were full of wine to symbolize the Eucharist, any kind of really bright red colors. So red pomegranates was kind of to do with the blood of Christ, very churchy. And then you have different foods like asparagus, which is meant to symbolize how rich you are because they're really hard to grow. And the Dutch were particularly famous for growing really delicious white asparagus, which was even more hard to grow and even more expensive. Same with lemons as well, really expensive to import. So really impressive if they're in your portraiture. Even more impressive if you got an artist who can paint one that's kind of unfurling and being peeled, because it's technically really hard. And it also kind of speaks to that idea of decay and loss and death. And a lot of these paintings, because they were done at a time in the 1600s where in the Netherlands there was massive wealth, like big economic boom. And I think part of the reason to paint death and decay was like, we're doing really well now, but remember, we're all gonna die.
Yeah. I just find it really funny that all of that is told through the lemon, like, which is so exotic back then, but now it's like
Same thing with cheese. I mean, they literally painted a lot of skulls and like symbols of death we'd recognize, but cheese was another kind of funk, decay, death.
Oh, interesting. Cheese means death.
Cheese is death.
And the word for still life, which features food or culinary items or just everyday items, is bodegon in Spanish. It's like little shop.
I was going to say bodega.
Oh, like a bodega.
Like a bodega, yeah.
Interesting. What would you commission if you were...
Oh, great question.
If you had the money to spare to represent your wealth?
I have a friend who does her own prints, actually, of famous branded foods.
Oh, yeah, Jenny.
Give her a shout out, Pantry Slut.
The Pantry Slut. That's the name that she gave herself. We don't call her that behind her back. I have a print of Jenny's, which is a packet of mini eggs.
Amazing.
Which was given to me for my birthday, because I don't know if you remember, Jack, when we used to live together. So it was me and our other flatmate Ed. We kept gifting each other industrial bags of mini eggs from like a warehouse.
The 2.5 kilos.
The ones, huge. They come like unbranded in like a sack, and they're basically for refilling pick and mix stations in cinemas.
That's sick.
It became because he used to buy a bag of mini eggs and I'd eat them, and then I'd have to replace them, and then he'd eat my one. So then eventually we just bought these huge sacks that we just kept like loose in a cupboard, basically.
Yeah,
time
it's
of
the
my
cheapest way to do it per kilo.
Right? And so I have a lovely, beautifully painted branded mini egg print. But actually, what I really need is like
life drawing. Have like a nude, carefully,
sexy,
artfully covered up with some food stuff.
Is a mini egg all you need to maintain the
It is time for our second lunchbox, and today that is Jack.
Yes, today I have installed my lunchbox actually in this room.
Oh.
Basically, I've made a forgery of a famous piece of art.
Oh, you have?
Can you see it over my shoulder?
Jack has duct taped a banana straight onto my wall. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, pleasure. I mean,
you'll be paying for any damage. And I'll take any profit if you've massively increased the value of my flat.
So this was all over the news. You may have heard of it.
Well, I recognise it. You've done a great job as a forgery.
Thank you. I mean, I couldn't do the same job with the Last Supper or the Mona Lisa. But it's called Comedian. It's a banana taped to the wall, and it was basically a piece from 2019 by Italian artist Maurizio Catalan. He's a bit of a provocateur, but he basically made 3 of these art pieces, and 2 of them got sold to an art museum in Basel for $120,000 each.
What, a banana taped to a wall? A banana taped
to the wall. And I think as part of the installation, the banana gets replaced, so it doesn't actually decay very much. Someone has to come in every 2 or 3 days and replace the banana.
Do you reckon that's a service that's indefinite? definite. At what point does he start making a loss?
That's a good question, because in 2024, it was sold to a crypto millionaire called Justin Sun, who bought it for $6.2 million.
Wow. And so, sorry, what are you actually buying? If the banana's getting replaced, presumably the duct tape is getting replaced as well?
Well, you receive the banana, a roll of duct tape, instructions on how to install the work.
Oh, the instructions, it's a Kia self-assembly.
Well,
you don't even come and do it.
It's meant to be exactly 1.6 meters above the floor.
Okay.
And then you also get a certificate of authenticity, which is basically the important bit. And that's why this one isn't worth the same amount, because it has no certificate. So the original banana was bought from a street seller for 35 cents. So the 35-cent banana was inflated by 18 million times.
Wow.
But yeah, basically Justin Sun bought it and then quite quickly tore it off the wall and ate it at a press conference. He claimed it was like cryptocurrency. It's about the concept, not the physical thing.
But he can, because, like you say, the concept of the art, it's in the certificate.
He just wanted to eat a really expensive banana, I think.
The cynics believe it was marketing because no one had heard of his crypto coin before.
Yeah.
But now, having spent $6.2 million, everyone's heard of his name.
Yeah, that's true.
But a number of people have eaten the bananas that are on public view. And one of them
just gone up and grabbed them.
Yeah. One of them was a student who just claimed he was hungry. And then another one was a different artist who wanted to make art from the art and basically do another performance piece. Apparently Damien Hirst tried to buy one and was told that it was sold out. Which I think is great.
Yes, we have no bananas.
Yes, we have no bananas, exactly.
He's the dude that pickles everything, right?
Yeah, famous for his formaldehyde sharks and sheeps and stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
he would pickle something in formaldehyde and then sort of tear it in half and display each side. And
I'm not a fan. The other job that I have, I work in a quite big trendy office, and there's a Damien Hirst right next to my desk with a massive sheep in it.
One of those formaldehyde ones.
It's quite good for somewhere to have meetings when all the meeting rooms are booked up, but the rest of the time I just have to look at it, and it's a bit off-putting, to be honest.
My favourite one of his is he made a skull and he covered it in diamonds.
That is really cool.
And then it was it was worth millions. But what was interesting was art's materials are tax deductible. So actually, it was
amazing.
The biggest
tax avoidance.
And it was a huge.
Is that why he did it?
Well, I think that was part of the point of the exhibition. Yeah.
Did you read about the chocolate room?
The chocolate room was created by a guy called Ed Ruscha.
Oh yeah, I know Ed Ruscha. Yeah, and he's just done a whole book about lemons and the art of lemons. So he's actually kind of in the food art world.
Yeah, well, he is very much in the 1970s. He was doing all sorts of things. His media were coffee, egg whites, beer, salad dressing, ketchup. He also did something which I love the title of: News, Muse, Pews, Brews, Stews and Dews, 1970. Where the rhyming words appeared in edible substances, including pie fillings, bolognese sauce, caviar, chocolate syrup.
So he likes to make a mess.
Yeah, basically. Well, they look quite neat and tidy, but they're definitely made with foodstuffs. And one of his examples was the 35th Venice Biennale, which is this big art exhibition that happens every 2 years in Venice. In 1970, he was the US representative, and he hung a room with 360 chocolate-infused pieces of paper. So basically, when you went in, it was completely sort of dark brown. Every surface was covered, and the whole place smelled of chocolate.
It was an aromatic art piece, basically.
Yes, yeah.
But not quite as exciting as, say, the Roald Dahl chocolate room.
No,
that is
you
what
weren't,
I imagined.
I don't think you were allowed to lick
that is food art.
It had to close early because ants started to infest.
Oh,
I know. But yeah, apparently he was inspired because he turned up in Italy and saw there was chocolate, probably like gianduja, which we did the other day, in what looked like paint tubes. So he just set about buying them all and covering a whole room in it.
That's
I
cool.
like it.
That's cool.
In the National Museum of Taiwan, there sits an intricate bok choy cabbage made of jade. And it was carved in the 19th century, and it's absolutely stunning.
Jade cabbage.
Jade-eyed cabbage.
It sounds like something that would be stolen in a National Treasure film.
A glass onion.
Yeah, it's literally that.
no.
And it actually even features 2 insects hiding inside
Wow.
pests,
so
basically.
cool. Imagine owning that, back in the day when there wasn't that much going on. You're like, do you want to come and see something really cool?
I would just drop it, immediately. It's exactly the kind of thing I would drop.
It is time for our final lunchbox today, and Alex, that is yours.
I have brought some canned smells.
Uh-oh. Do we need to open the
I'm going
window?
to open the window because I
Yeah.
think it's going to get smelly.
Okay.
Okay. There is a whole industry around using scent in spaces and performances.
Okay.
So I wanted to look at like how artificial smells can be used in a kind of artistic way. Shall we start by opening these up? Because I can already smell them through the package. Right, can you... I'm not going to have to. I'm just
that
going
is
to...
funky.
Oh, it's leaked. There's leak. Don't. No.
Okay.
Don't do it, Alex.
It smells so bad already, so I'm not even going to open the
What?
packaging. I will show you through the plastic. Which one is
like
that?
Really flat.
We've got some onion oil.
That's like feet.
Oh, we've got some mustard gas. Jesus.
That's the smelly one.
Is that against the Geneva Convention?
And we've got some cheddar cheese. That's definitely cheesy.
Ah, it's getting the cheese.
Okay, right.
Put it back in.
I am
Put it
actually going
away.
to put this away because it smells too bad. Oh,
You
Bloody
wafted it
hell.
around.
nasty. Oh my god.
Is it art?
Right. So those are some really horrible ones actually, but there are a lot of
Yeah.
really lovely smells that you can get in a can, in a
sure.
spray. So you can get fresh popcorn, vanilla, cinnamon, coffee, fresh bread, chocolate, citrus. You can also get rotting food, which that absolutely one smells like. They're used in shopping malls and they're used in cinemas and theme parks.
Oh, okay.
It's all part of building an immersive multisensory experience, which I would say qualifies as food art. I mean, part of it is marketing. You go to Disneyland or somewhere like that, and actually Disney developed their own specific machine called a smellitizer that pumps scents into their rides and down their streets.
For a
And,
second, I thought Disney had their own smell. They're like, we're going to pump this Disney smell.
well, they actually do as well, and it's not really food related, but I know that they pump smells everywhere. Their theme parks, their hotels, their cruise ships. Now, I did watch a video recently that was about they sort of have different smells for different cruise ships, and obviously cocktails. It's like making a perfume. In the theme parks, there's kind of two ways you can do it. You can use it as a marketing technique to try and get people to walk into your bakery and your shop by pumping out a very controlled, appetizing smell of chocolate or fresh bread that's often a little bit sweeter or a little bit stronger and like sort of better than the actual product. But they also put it in their rides as well. So
The smell of fear.
it's the smell of like rotting food in a
Sweat,
sort of horror
really?
ride and
Wow.
stuff like
Wow.
that. Yeah, which I thought was really cool. There's a kind of early precursor to this in cinemas. From the 1960s, there was an experimental smell-o-vision
oh, yeah.
created by a guy called Hans Laub, and it was used in a film called The Scent of Mystery.
Oh.
So, I mean, it was a bit of a gimmick, and it pumped scents into the cinema like perfume and gunpowder and wine through tubes that were connected to each seat. But it didn't really work very well because I think the pump system was incredibly loud. So there's a large whirring thumping sound every time this turned on. And also it was quite difficult to control timing wise.
Right.
So you'd get like the smell of gunpowder, but actually that scene was
They hadn't started
3 years
shooting
ago
yet,
and now
yeah.
you're on the sex scene. You're like, why does it smell like someone shot me? So that didn't really work. It was a bit more of a gimmick. And there was also a rival system called Aroma Rama. There's some really good names. I was
Very
saying
names.
this, yeah.
Smells in films, I don't think is a good idea. Just when you raise the sex scene, I'm like, no one wants to smell that. When they talk about having like truly 4D, 5D experience when
Yeah.
you're watching stuff, it's like some senses should be left alone.
I
think.
agree.
It seems like a bit of an odd thing to do, right? To be like, oh, let's try and enhance the smell of this street or this shop or whatever. But smell is just so evocative, and smell of food, the
linked to
food in
feeling.
particular, is
and
so evocative.
memory as well. Like there's nothing that gets my memory going like a smell.
Yeah. Exactly. It pays dividends as well. You get people like hang around for longer in your shops because it smells nice. And so you end up buying more or, you know.
I'm sure I remember reading that if you want like 5% more value for your house, you just bake bread when they come in for visits.
And you can also buy the scent of freshly baked cookies
Can you?
in a spray can. It's sort of 1960s dystopia.
So funny.
But if you want to expend an awful lot of energy mixing a perfume for no apparent benefit,
Yeah.
you can make something that I saw in the Vancouver Art Museum, which is olfactory white noise. So basically, the idea of white noise is there's so many different frequencies that your brain can't tune them all out. So that it just makes a mess.
It sounds like TV static. It also
static,
kind of
yeah.
sounds like waves
Yeah.
crashing. Yeah.
Thank you, Jack.
Coffee on the hob.
Oh, that's a good sound.
Yeah, very good. Okay, great. We've got some amazing
Anyway,
Foley.
those are my two Foley impressions. But basically, olfactory white noise, it was amazing. They gave you a sample to smell, and it smelled kind of generally pleasant. It's a little bit citrusy. And then you smelled another box, and it was functionally the same. I couldn't really tell the difference between them. And then they listed the ingredients, and there were 30 ingredients in each, and they were different. So there were 60 in total. So the first box had like bacon and lemon and bleach or something, you know. And then the second box had apples and patchouli and basil or whatever. But they all was so overwhelming because there were 30 in each that actually they ended up smelling the same. It's the same concept as white noise. I found it fascinating to
that's
be
incredible.
like, there are no common ingredients in either of these, and yet they smell almost the same.
And I guess white noise is named after white light, because if you mix all the different colours together, you get just a blinding white.
Exactly, yeah.
They
incredible.
We're looking at using this smell to make deodorizers for like cat boxes and
No way.
as a kind of deodorant.
Like noise cancelling headphones.
Yeah, but for your cat's poo smell.
Oh. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the little field trip we did this morning.
Yes.
Because as well as smelling art, of course, you can go and eat it. And we went to an edible art exhibition.
It's still in my teeth.
And it's called the Museum of Edible Earth.
Yeah.
I was actually a little bit sceptical before we went, because it is the 1st of April, day of record,
Because I'd heard vaguely of people eating soil and earth and rocks even.
which is called geophagy.
Exactly, yeah. It's not really part of my culture, even though it's part of many people's culture around the world. And it was fascinating to see this museum with all these different samples, most of which you can't actually eat. So they're just sort of on show. But they're all examples of things that people have in the past and will continue to eat around the world.
It's basically a room with a whole wall of jars of different shapes and sizes, which reminded me of the Dream Library in the BFG. But in every single one, there's a different, it's like a rock or pebbles or dust or dirt, and they're all different colours. And they're all...
some like formed into like beautiful shapes as snacks, like the ones that are really perfectly round or kind of like tubular.
Yeah, some are quite sweety.
They look
like,
really sweety.
And they're all labelled with their different names and where they're from, and a real variety of colours. It's amazing to see, actually.
They had 600 plus examples from 44 different countries.
Visually alone, it was really interesting to see. But then you can actually sit down and taste some of them.
Yeah.
So they had a kind of healing earth supplement from Germany, which was food grade and came in little packets that looked like kind of sweetener or coffee.
Yeah, because you can actually buy them in Germany.
Yeah.
You can, in the shops, you can buy literally like sachets of earth for eating.
It's meant to help with your digestion and kind of detoxify your gut. And then they had another one which was from Mexico, which was called
Diatomaceous.
Thank you, Jack. Earth, which was a lot whiter and chalkier, and
It looked like cocaine. It was a huge. You did look like you were taking
we
huge amounts of
didn't
cocaine.
say
I didn't make the joke.
but
I nearly gummed it.
you did gum it. And yeah, we tasted these two different kinds of earth. The chalky one was, if you've ever wanted to eat talcum powder, this is the exhibition for you. It's such an interesting texture.
Yeah, that was the thing I thought was most interesting, was the flavours were quite mild, but the mouthfeel was like nothing else you ever eat. Because like I said, the first one we tried was crunchy and like just the audio of it in my own brain was so loud. And then the second one was like mouth puckeringly dry, but only for an instant, and then suddenly it sort of dissolves and so everything's fine. No, it was really interesting.
Geophagy, just more broadly, is such an old practice, and it's done all over the world, but we're still not entirely sure why people do it.
Oh, really?
So there's a fantastic paper, research review done in 2011 called "Why on Earth?" ?
Very good.
An anthropologist called Sarah Young and her team reviewed like almost 500 different accounts of human geophagy, and they excluded mouthing behavior, which is when kids are kind of eating all sorts of things and playing with their mouths and putting dirt in them to kind of explore the natural world. They also excluded ritual practices of geophagy, which is something that they talked a lot about in the exhibition. They excluded nixtamalization, which is corn processing, because that's done with limestone.
Oh, yes, I
and
think I
they
mentioned that.
excluded salt.
Yeah,
because
salt
that
is
is
the
a
wrong
rock.
meat, yeah.
That's true.
So they found in all of their research that one of the most likely explanations is to do with detoxification.
Okay, yeah.
Because that is something that, say, eating clay can do. If you eat it in the right quantities, it can bind to like horrible things in your gut. Say with charcoal as well, like it can attract pathogens and nasties and cleanse your body. But if you do it too much, it can also take out all of the good stuff. So it is both an iron supplement and something that takes iron away from your body.
I guess the other reason to do it is just like for the gram. Someone said, house said, you get a lot of influences coming through.
Very true. So yeah, no, it's such an interesting practice. I definitely recommend going.
Yeah,
to the
definitely go
exhibition.
check it out if it's still open.
Oh, yeah.
We went first thing in the morning and it was not a good breakfast.
No. That is it for this week's edition of Lunchbox Envy.
You can follow our socials for foodie facts and podcast updates. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Lunchbox Envy Pod.
You can also get in touch and send us your facts, recipes, and questions and artwork by emailing us lunchbox@qi.com. We do love to receive it, but unfortunately we can't return it. We eat it all.
And we'll leave you with this. In 2008, the British artist Damien Hirst sent his iconic artwork consisting of 2 dead cows pickled in formaldehyde to Japan for an exhibition. But due to Japan's ban on British beef, it was stopped at customs and the museum had to convince officials that nobody was going to eat it. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Lunchbox Envy was hosted by Jack Chambers, Alex Bell, and me, Manu Henriot. It was produced by Alex Bell. This has been a quite interesting podcast.